If you want to save time and still get accurate results, then partner with 4 Pillars Research, proud sponsors of PI Perspectives. We specialize in uncovering insurance policies that can make or break your case. From identifying unknown policies to uncovering accurate policy information, we streamline the process so you can focus on your case. Partner with 4 Pillars Research and unlock the full potential of your investigations. Visit researchfpr.com to learn more.
Private investigators, are you spending hours digging through online data? There's a better way. Scope Now is your all-in-one OSINT platform, automating the collection and analysis of publicly available information so you get results faster. Workbench helps you uncover key details on individuals and businesses. Link analysis connects the dots between entities, and PreCheck flags potential risks in seconds. Plus, with Grid, you'll get real-time intelligence alerts, keeping you ahead of emerging threats. Stop the manual searching. Let Scope Now do the heavy lifting. Learn more at scopenow.com. Do you enjoy our podcast and the guests we bring you? Since 2019, Matt and his team have done their very best to give you amazing shows each week. If you feel like our show has helped you to be a better investigator, or maybe even inspired you to become an investigator, please let us know. We're looking for testimonials. Drop Matt an email with a recorded 20 to 30 seconds of you talking about this podcast. You can also email him something verbal about the website. His email is matthews@satellitepi.com. And if you really feel blessed for having this content, consider supporting Matt and our show by joining Investigator's Toolbox. You really have to see version 2.0. And at just 49 cents a day, it's a no-brainer. We're proud to announce a partnership with InvestigatorConference.com. This free site tracks all the live events in the industry. Want to plan out your travel schedule to see what events are happening in the next few months? Are you hosting an event? Send them an email to add the date. Visit the site today. That's investigator-conference.com. Investigator-conference.com. Welcome to the next episode of PI Perspectives. Today we go behind the scenes and we welcome Adrian Padarath. Adrian handles all the social media marketing for PI Perspectives, Investigator's Toolbox, and Satellite Investigations. The guys discuss how they met and their approach to social media marketing. It's a great episode for those who run their own businesses and want to grow a presence online. So please welcome Adrian Padarath and New York Private Eye, Matt Spare.
And welcome everyone to the next episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spare, your host. Today we're going to do a little bit of something different to end the year. One of our final episodes for the year. I thought it'd be cool to go behind the scenes a little bit. One of the things I get a lot from people I see in the industry is how cool the show is and how good it looks, and how it's everywhere on online, on the internet, on the social medias and all that stuff. And people actually think it's me, and it's not. So I'm gonna pull back the veil, and I'm welcoming Adrian Padarath to the program. Adrian, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. I'm happy to be here. Happy to kind of what is it, the Wizard of Oz?
Right.
Kind of find out what's really going on behind the scenes, and just share with the community, what's working, how we got here, and hopefully they can take away some tips to build their channels.
Absolutely. And it's such a big part of being in business these days, right? You start off and you say, okay, whatever it is you want to do. For me, like I want to be a private investigator, right? I'm putting up my shingle and I'm going to start working, and here I am, and I got to get some business. And what does that look like, right? Well, back in the day, you had to pick up the telephone book and start calling people, but it didn't work that way anymore. Everything's online. So Adrian, you and I met through a mutual friend at our church. You've been doing some work for our church, but you weren't one of these guys that did this as a hobby. This is kind of what you did for a living. So tell people a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so in 2015, I joined a full-time, production video company and was there for 8 years. And at that time, I only knew how to graphic design, but they had brought me in for some social media help. And along that 8 year tenure, really started the photography aspect, the videography aspect. And when you're a small team, just like, I know a lot of the PIs and the or agencies have, you kind of wear multiple hats. And so that's where I kind of picked up all these different skills, not really knowing in the future I'd kind of end up being this like one man agency. Not that the goal was to be a jack of all trades, but I could kind of look at brands holistically and say, well, you should do a little bit of this. And there was no limitation as to what we could try because my hands were in all different kinds of pots. So.
Right. So just, like a lot of the clients you were dealing with was from the commercial aspect of it, right? So whether it be a particular brand, apparel, or food, or you name it, if somebody was selling it, you were kind of pushing it and figuring out how to do all that stuff. And there's certain appeal to that, right?
Yeah, I think it made the pivot to even being introduced to this industry because I really had no, for me, from my end, you would have told me like something like Inspector Gadget or,
Right.
something really almost like sci-fi. Like I just had no clue as to what the industry was about or how it kind of worked or even the lingo. But having worked on so many different kinds of brands and B2C and direct to consumer on website and B2B, you kind of always have to figure out what's the best way to apply the tools that you have to whatever industry it is because the client's, going to expect results. You can't kind of come back to them and say, "Hey, I don't really know about this industry." So you're always working with the client and also doing your own research and a lot of the tools work across the board. So that's really the great part of it.
Yeah, and for folks who don't know B2B and B2C, B2B is business to business, and B2C is like business to consumer. So that's the difference on it, right? So you who you selling your services to, right? Is it something that you're trying to like a law firm would be B2B,
Right.
a regular John Doe, Jane Doe who wants to hire an investigator because they think their husband's cheating on them, or maybe they're looking for a lost relative or something like that. That's like a B2C. So just understanding that aspect of it. And one of the things I thought was really cool is that you did make an effort to like come to events and really like meet people in the industry and really understand things. And I think that helped a lot with you understanding the lingo. And the benefit of that is when we're doing the work now. So like when we're putting together an ad or just a plan for how we're going to run our advertising, like you understand the ins and outs of the stuff that we do better. So it's better for you to kind of target the research or the message that we're putting out there, right?
Yeah, exactly. You kind of figure out, hey, this is the language that if you write it this way, somebody's going to know this this is not anyone connected to
Right.
the industry.
Right.
And that's not what you want because that doesn't help you, that doesn't help them. And so it also helps with targeting, and knowing, maybe there's probably more, male personal injury law attorneys. And so, different things like that. Just when you go to these events, it's a great microcosm of the demographics at play.
Yeah. Yeah. And I managed to I guess get you in on certain things and pay you for it too, right? You're the photographer for this event, right? They're gonna actually pay you to take pictures, but while you're there, talk to people and scope out and learn, learn what we do and really understand. It's so much more than what you see on TV and probably not as cool as what you see in the movies.
Well, I would say I always appreciated the sense of camaraderie. Even though there were, different organizations there, there seemed to be this cumulative appreciation for truth telling and integrity. And so that's not something you always see in every other industry. So I
Yeah,
think, for a lot of the people watching this, like, hats off to you guys because uh, truth is blurrier and blurrier every day,
right.
and you guys are here to say otherwise, which is really cool.
Yeah, and we all have stories too. It's like a lot of the work that we do is it's just it's interesting, right? We're the fun people to talk to at a cocktail party. Although we do got to be careful also of not violating NDAs, right? That's
Sure.
always an issue. And a lot of people in entertainment will contact investigators to try and get their stories on a particular program. I mean, I get solicited all the time. Like,
Mm.
hey, come on and let's talk about your most interesting cases that you worked on, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. Maybe the case is still in litigation. Like I'm not gonna put anything out there. I can't do that. And I always found like, all right, so it's interesting because like you're on here, you and I here, and we're talking about getting our message out there and what we're trying to do. But on the other hand, I try and stay away from being like the celebrity aspect of it. There are a few in this industry that have turned it into more of like a celebrity thing, and like they get to be known as the PI for this and that. Next thing you know, they're selling roast beef sandwiches on commercials, right? And it's
Right.
like, well, where, what are you trying to do here? Do you want to be an actor or do you want to be a business owner? Like that's the way I look at it. And listen, I have dear friends that are in that world, like the commercial stuff, investigators that take that avenue, and more power to you. Like that's great. I always like, I don't know, I get my kicks working on cases, not being on TV, I guess.
Yeah, so I think you're describing kind of the tension. It's how do I get out there? And the research is the data is pretty clear where the more like a CEO or the president of the company is front and center, the more people are willing to engage. They feel it's a sense of there's some relationship there, even if they've never met the person.
Right.
They trust the brand more when they see the actual face of it. And so, how do you balance that without, like you say, being the next George Foreman?
Yeah.
And and yeah, so I think at the same time, you're one of the guys who are doing, you know, public speaking and you're doing presentations,
Right.
and so there's a fine line to walk, it seems.
Yeah, and even this podcast. I mean, listen, we're approaching 300 episodes. We've been doing this since 2019. It's a long time, and yes, people, I'm recognized 100% recognized. Every event I go to, there's always one or two people that come up and just say, "Hey, man, I appreciate your content that you throw out there. It helped me a lot when I got started. Thank you for doing this." And that's like the recharge, right? Every time I feel like, I've said everything I needed to say. Like this is, am I seeing the end of the line here? All right. Like when I meet people like that, I get inspired, and it's just like, yes, this is why we're doing this, is why we're talking about it. It's never about me. It's always about the people that I have on and the folks that are listening that can pull something away from that. I'm really not an interesting person. If you meet me, meet me in person, I do some things. I probably look a lot cooler. Thank you for that, Adrian, because you have a lot to do with that. But I'm a simple guy, and to me, the passion that I have is for the industry, and a level of uh, expertise, just a level of service, making sure that we're maintaining that, because nobody trains us or teaches us how to do anything in this industry. You kind of got
Mhm.
to figure it out on your own, right? Use your work experience and then figure it out when you decide you want to do your own thing, right? So that was really the genesis for this podcast. So let's kind of rewind here a little bit and talk about you and I starting to get together, and what that looked like, and our first meeting, because initially, like, you came on board for Investigators Toolbox and PI Perspectives, right? Which is this show, and
Right.
the
Right.
Toolbox, which is the vehicle that the online community that we're pushing. So let's talk about that first initial meeting and what you took away from that.
Yeah, well, you had we met at that cafe, Black Star Cafe, Long Island City, which is seems to be the genesis of a lot of great things. Had my first
Yeah.
coffee with my now wife there, and so I like to think great things come out of meeting at that cafe.
Right.
And at the time, I don't know if the toolbox was already built, but you were saying, you have this platform that's really going to help investigators and other security professionals. But how are you going to promote it? You're going to do this podcast. And by having the guests on it and by promoting the episodes, there's going to be this symbiotic relationship. And really, so a lot of it just became okay, let's kind of dissect what's every benefit to the toolbox. What's every category, the blogs, the different services, every sponsor, and let's kind of build out a pool of different things we can constantly promote. And so every time we're promoting a piece of that or a piece of the PI Perspectives episodes, we're continually driving people to that platform. And so that became really the main way of getting traffic to the toolbox.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and this one of the reasons the podcast was started, right? I had this idea for the toolbox. I'm like, okay, so how are people going to find out about it? Well, you're right. So podcasts were popular, So I was like, okay, if I do a podcast and immediately I'm promoting the site on that podcast from day one, folks are going to hear about it and they're going to say, what is that thing? I got to go check it out, right? So that was that, and just kind of tailoring the message as well. Again, understanding what it is. I think the way you approached it was great. We were highlighting different areas of what it could do on the socials, right? So on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, that is how we approached it, and it's changed over the years. AI obviously is front and center now, but we didn't have any of that stuff, or very
Right.
little of it back when it started. And it's like, okay, here's the message. Here's what we want to do. How are we tracking the metrics? Are we getting a good ROI on the money now we're putting into advertising? And, I talk about this. I give a talk to investigators. Sometimes I go to conferences and talk about marketing, your business, how do you get it, and understanding how you have an advertising budget, how you should use it, right? So it gets to a point when you're serious about growth and you've now have a little bit of extra money, right? Your business is doing well, but it could be doing better. So what are you doing with that money? Are you burying it in the sand? There's something terrible about this, right? So are you burying it in
Yeah,
the sand,
right,
or
right,
are you
right.
doing something with it, right? And how much of that can you do on your own? And really that's what it came down to. I got to the point where I'm like, wow, there's just not enough hours in the day. I want to grow this business. I want to grow my regular business, satellite investigations. But there are not enough hours in the day. And I really, as great as I think I am at social media and doing all this other stuff, there's a time to hand it off to professionals, right? And that was a game changer for me. And having that comfort level with you, because I knew you personally, and then also your background and your approach to doing things. Like everyone should find somebody like that to do it, right? That was a
Yeah,
big approach.
yeah. I think what you're describing is the tipping point, right? It's, same thing with, hey, when do I bring on an extra person?
Right.
Like, and you're trying to multiply yourself really, and at least the values that you have since running satellite and starting PI Perspectives and the toolbox. And so when you find someone who has similar values, I think the skills are important, but somebody can always learn skills. And it was of course a benefit that I already came in with skills,
Right.
but like you said, we were also learning. We were trying to figure out, okay, how do we just get what this platform does in front of different people? How do we get eyeballs on it? And we were trying everything with tracking codes when we, promo codes when we were promoting it on LinkedIn ads. And so, you know, all different kinds of things where we created graphics for every single service and every single category that was on the toolbox. This was again before AI, so reels and clips had to be manually edited, and so I was listening to the episodes myself,
Yeah.
and I would tell Krista, hey, you got to listen to this story. This is just something like there's a car in a ditch or something like that. And they're trying to get insurance. It's like cool
Right.
stuff like that that I just thought was awesome that I had no idea about. And but we're cutting those clips and trying to find hooks and just to get people to listen to it. And what ends up happening is whether it's a service or joining the toolbox or listening to the podcast is once people see it enough times, um, they're more likely than not to at least give it a click.
Sure.
Hey, let me just see what it is, or if there's competing services, maybe there was another. I don't know if there was another any. There was nothing like Toolbox really out there,
Yeah.
but it's like, well, why would I choose this one over that one? Well, these guys seem to be really serious about what they're putting out there, and it's polished enough, it's sleek enough. This thing seems worth my value.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with just the messages that we're putting out there, the quality of the production, right? Because that's part of it too. We don't have Joey Salvia with us here today, but I've done an episode with him before. He's my producer. That voice you hear at the beginning of the show, that's him. He's a professional podcast producer. This guy works. I think he's working with CNN now. But like that's his day job. His side project is production, and things like that. So you take that. So you've got a good sounding content, right? You've got now this targeted marketing approach where we're trying to put eyeballs on it that are eyeballs that want to look at it, right? Then we've got partnerships with like PI Magazine, where they're promoting it, and we're running ads in there as well, and just anywhere we could get the buzzword out. Working PI, it's another magazine that we've done partnerships with. Our partnerships with IRB, with them promoting it to their members. We had other ones back in the day that they would blast out to their members, hey, check out this podcast, check out this this website, Investigators Toolbox. So it's like having that approach of just getting the word out there. And it's weird because there are some people in the industry that think like I'm this vain guy and that I'm in love with myself and I'm always like constantly promoting things. And I'm like, okay, well, those folks obviously don't know me as a person. They know me as Adrian. Puts me out there to be. You made me a monster, dude.
Oh man.
So,
Well,
sorry, not sorry. I mean, the idea is, you want to be successful, right? And somebody in who's in the, I guess, commercial world, commercial publications and all that, gave me a real good piece of advice. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. When it comes to podcasting and doing all this stuff, you have to have this attitude like you're the best. You're the person that's out there, that you have the answers to the questions. Even if you don't, you need to have that energy and come across like you do. And you're creating that trust in the brand. And I think that's, we've done it over the years, I think.
and yeah, and it was such a collaborative effort too.
Yeah.
You mentioned like you have the brands who are all sharing all the partnerships, but you have everyone who's been a guest on the podcast sharing, and so that's all of their networks. And so your people are subscribing, the partners peoples are subscribing, the guest people are subscribing, and so you end up having this great web, this network. And then it's very important to mention that you're also there in person. You've got we've posted so many booth photos where it's like, hey, here at this conference, hey, Mass is going to be at this conference, so we're promoting it before, we're promoting it while you're there, we're getting stuff after, and people are seeing, hey, this is not just some ghost platform, it's run by a real individual. And if any of those guys who had that inaccurate perspective of you would just show up to one of these things and say hello, then they would have their thoughts corrected. And so it's been a great effort from all parties involved.
Right. You were close to coming to Chicago with me to WAD. We had that conversation. Like I
Yeah,
was pulled it, but you like you had family. I didn't want to pull you away for a week. So yeah, almost.
yeah, and I'll make it out to one of those for sure. Um, for sure.
Yeah. So this is a good spot to take a break. We've kind of gone over a little bit, but I do want to let the sponsors get in here. And listen, the sponsors are a reason that Adrian is doing all this stuff, right? It's part of the process as well. From day one, from episode one, I had sponsors, right? And when we come back, I'm going to talk about that and how that worked out, and how it just led to just a really good piece of content or pieces of content. So everybody sit tight, and we will be right back.
Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Managing a team of investigators just got easier with TrackOps, the all-in-one case management software. Are you ready to enhance case flows and drive efficiency? TrackOps offers powerful management and coordination tools to streamline workflows and communication, all designed to keep your team synchronized and focused on the task at hand. With TrackOps, you can easily distribute workloads, track individual performance, and ensure deadlines are met. Plus, the TrackOps mobile app allows investigators to access case activities on the go. And the TrackOps video app allows for simple and consistent timestamping, all included at no extra cost. Start streamlining your investigation process today. Visit trackops.com for a free 15-day trial and experience the power of efficient team management. TrackOps, empowering teams, simplifying management. Satellite Investigations has launched its new website full of great new content. Matt and his team have released some great informative blogs. Make sure you log in to LinkedIn and follow Satellite Investigations for the latest content. Over the past year, our industry has been the target of foreign governments and agencies that have attempted to recruit unsuspecting investigators to gather intelligence or immediate expatriates. PI Perspectives is teaming up with the Federal Bureau of Investigations to get the word out about this ongoing crisis. If you've been contacted by an individual or company that might seem suspicious, please contact the FBI at tips.fbi.gov. You can also contact the New York field office at 212-384-1000 to report suspicious activity in any state. The link is also in the show notes. Even if you completed a job and it still doesn't sit right with you, you can report this activity. The only way to stop this trend is to work together. So let's do it.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Sperry, your host. Today I'm here with my advertising guru, Adrian Padarath. Adrian, welcome back to the program.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, so this is fun, man. I'm like kind of reminiscing, but trying to give advice too. And of course, I'll be accused of talking about myself and my ego. But yeah, someone's always going to hate on me, so it is.
But they're watching. But they're watching.
They're watching.
And so that's it, right? They're watching.
That's the way I always put it. If somebody hates me, and there are plenty of people out there that don't like me, it means I'm doing something. Like I must be doing something right, right? Like. It is what it is. You're in this business long enough, you're going to have fans and you're going to have people that aren't fans. So it is what
Yeah.
So before we took the break, I teased a little bit about sponsorship and the importance of sponsorship. And it's not just sponsorship, it's more partnership. Because it can be a sponsorship for the program here, but it could also be a client of yours that you work with, partnership wise, for testimonials. So think of it as if it's a sponsor, if you're selling something, or you're trying to get it, you're obviously promoting a product. But if it's testimonials, it's you're promoting yourself, and a victory that you had, and how to use all that stuff. So I identified very early on that there was potential to have sponsors from like day one. And like the biggest problem that I had was I had no listeners because I had no show. So it's like I'm talking to people.
Right.
I say I had this great idea. I've got this podcast idea, and it's not going to be about me. It's not going to be about me talking about my cases and how I solved this. It's not going to be some 13 episode big docucrime thing, like, which those are great, people love listening to them, but I really wanted to create something that was going to teach you how to do something in 40 minutes, either how to do it or who to call when you wanted somebody done. So that was the initial idea, that I went to sponsors, right? And just having the guts to talk to somebody about um my ideas, and getting them on board for it. So what I did was, all those conferences that was going to at the time, you start building relationships with vendors and other investigators, right? So other investigators, well, there's your guests. I'm going all over the country, and I'm meeting people, and I'm meeting interesting people. There's a nice pool of guests right there, right? If I don't know you, you're not going to be on my show, and I had people over the years approach me and say, hey, I'd like to be on the show. It's great. Let's have a phone conversation. If you don't have a convo with me, I don't know you, you're not going to be on there, right? And with from the vendor side, these were potential sponsors, right? So getting them on board, saying, hey, you're spending X amount of dollars for a 2 or 3 day conference. Once that money's gone, you're not going to connect with the people that were there anymore. So let's be honest, you're just not going to. Once you try this podcast thing, where it'll cost you less to sponsor and be a part of it, and you're going to have something that's called evergreen, that is going to be there forever. So let's talk about, because I've been rambling here for the last 3 minutes. Let's talk about your experience in repurposing content and how that works. So give me your perspective on that.
Yeah. So with regards to like the sponsors, partnerships.
Well, I mean, just highlighting them over and over again, not just that one ad, right? We're constantly going back to them and making sure that they're getting their fair share of shout outs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So a big part of when you sign up as a sponsor, you're kind of always asking, what's the ROI? Like, and you realize from our side, it goes beyond just people listening to the podcast. It goes into all of the social channels. And, so we, alongside of like the toolbox email that would go out every month, we'd pull together, hey, we're going to highlight these sponsors this month and just give them their dedicated post and kind of share like, hey, this is what they do. This is how they're unique. And a lot of that came from even just going on their website and me doing the research
Right.
and trying to pull together, images, trying to even use the assets that they had on their website and making sure that what we're putting out about the sponsors feels like it's something that they would want to, share. Like it's almost like social media for the sponsors, when we were promoting them, became little billboards.
Yeah.
Except these billboards, I could tell you exactly how many people are seeing them and how
Yeah.
many people are clicking on them. And so that's kind of how you have to look at
Right.
even social media and all these like abilities to click things. It's we can tell you how many thousands of people are watching it, and then over time you just keep promoting. We created templates,
Right.
and we would be able to switch out logos, but also keep it fresh. And when there were bits and pieces about the guest speaking about a particular sponsor, if we were able to cut that clip and use that as a post.
Right.
So it was really trying to give a lot of value to the sponsors and to the partners so that they would know like, hey, like you might be even getting more than what you initially paid for,
Yeah.
because we're not just here to siphon dollars, but we'd also want you to stay. And we want to make sure like what we're doing is also increasing, your subscribership as well.
Sure. So, you bring up a good point, and it's something I learned from, of all people, Howard Stern. Like listening to Howard Stern over the years as a kid, and then watching his movie Private Parts, and him being given a read, like, hey, you got to read this ad on this thing. I never forget the scene. Right? He's like, I don't want to read that. Like, I shop at this place. I go to this place. Well, no, I'm going to just talk about my experience with this particular product, right? And that was something that resonated with me. I was like, that's a real honest take on it, and I always, that's why I always try and work in um the sponsors within a conversation. Like, that's 100% intentional. As I'm having a conversation, and in my head I think, oh, like, okay, well, I use this particular vendor for this thing that we're talking about, let me work it in. Or, this association is so important, and we're talking about this thing, let me tie it in. This conference that they're having in a couple of weeks, let me tie that in to make sure people know that it's out there, right? All intentional, never by accident, man. That's all like there. And this is like, you learn that as you go along. And I've gone back and I've listened to earlier episodes I've done, like from the beginning, and I'm like, who is this joker? This guy sucks. Like, it's almost unlistenable. But it's like, you have to do that. And I was talking about this recently with somebody. All the speech ticks that I have, like, I tamp one down and another one would come back up. There was a time where I was, every other word was like, and then I had a guest on that said, and it was like back and forth. The two of us like, yeah, let's go. Terrible. But you learn it over the
Right.
years. So it's a big part of that, right? So let's talk about this in the sense of like your own business now and promoting your own business. Forget about the podcast, right? Let's talk about XYZ investigations, and you want to do social media, or you want to get the word out about something. So it's not going to be a sponsor word that you're getting out there, but it could be a testimonial from a client of yours, and being able to promote that a certain way. And I think it's super important, especially the approach, the way that you've done it with my regular business, like Satellite Investigations. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, especially with satellite. Now we were kind of pivoting, right? We were like, okay, Matt's got all these years of experience, a ton of stories, and we tried different things. Initially it was, hey, let's take the blogs that are on the website and let's create a bunch of quote graphics and just kind of keep pushing the blogs to, bump up SEO and bump up website traffic. And then AI got introduced, and all of a sudden everyone started running into SEO problems because people were no longer having to click onto a website in order to get that information. It was popping up right in the top of the search. And so it's like, okay, then we need to pivot there.
Right.
Um, but what we also learned was through all of the video and the even PI perspectives being, all a ton of content, and you doing bits and bolts from the past,
Right.
and now the Did You Know series, sharing these, little episodes of experiences that you've had in the field,
Yep.
um, us trying to repurpose that as much as possible. And
Yeah.
so everyone knows video content, it's the longest to produce.
Right.
And sometimes it's the most cost intensive. And so how do we approach a video and say, well, now that the video's done, we posted it, what next? Now I have to spend another couple grand to do another video. Well,
Right.
what if we could take the transcript of that video, turn that into articles, extract 4 to 5 posts from one short video, then all of a sudden we have this library and Rolodex of content that's still sharing the same information, but it's repackaging it and
Yep.
posting multiple times. So maybe if somebody didn't see the video, they're seeing the article, the LinkedIn article that we just created of
Yep.
it. And maybe if they didn't see that article, they're seeing the quote that's driving back to the article. And so it begins this kind of game of how many slices can I, make out of one pie?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's guerrilla warfare, right? We're taking what we have and we're just extracting as much as we can from it and serving it up in different ways. So I'm going to roll back a little bit here to talk about the genesis of how we got there, right? So it started with the shift, I think, of understanding that blogs are blogs and they're great and they're out there, but does anybody actually really read these things? How much are people actually reading it, right? They're seeing it, it's out there. Maybe they're perusing and they're just speed reading through it. They're not really soaking it in, right? So I felt like I wanted to move away from putting out as many blogs as we had, unless something like came out, like the Park Avenue shooting. Okay, that's something to talk about. Like I didn't want to just do a blog for the sake of doing a blog. I wanted to do it when there was something that was newsworthy. So I wanted to shift more over to video content. Well, we had lots of video content. Obviously, you talked about it. We're PI perspectives, 200 plus episodes. You can go in there but now it's time. It's taking up time, your time, Adrian's time, to go now pick apart all that stuff and build something, right? So the idea that I came up with is I wanted to do um, uh, something to highlight Investigator Toolbox, the sponsors, right? So I called it Bits and Bolts, right? So it's a toolbox. There's bolts in there. I want to give you like a little bit from the box, right? So it's all play on words. I probably stole a little bit of that from Cynthia Hetherington, where they're bits and bytes. But shout out to Cynthia, thanks for that. But the bits and bolts was a thing that we were doing, and we were kind of ahead of the game because I don't think that kind of content was just starting to get out there, where we were doing like these little 2-minute segments of talking about a sponsored product and how it brings value to what investigators do, right? So that was that. We were doing that for a bit. I would just finish recording something or schedule a recording session like we're doing right now, and I'd get content there. But that was also very time intrusive for me. It was a lot of like, oh, we got to do this and we got to get it over, and it was good. It was a good genesis. But what that really turned into was what we're doing now. And you had referenced that before. The did you know? And that's really like one of the things I wanted to highlight there
Yeah.
today, because this is something that we're doing that's really, really working, right? So you've got your TikTok, you've got your LinkedIn, you've got Instagram and Facebook, right? Those are the big ones to go. TikTok's kind of a waste. People are there, they're going to see your content.
Well, YouTube Shorts as well.
YouTube Shorts, right? Another one. See, I don't know everything. But creating that content, staying within that 2 minute, and there were some things that I would record. You're like, a little too long. It's now become, more than a short. Like you got to keep it to that particular area,
Right.
and it's like you learn, right? You learn of like, okay, how can I get my message out quickly, right? So I thought of the idea of, did you know, right? Did you know, as an investigator, this is one of the things we can do, right? I'm talking directly to my audience. I'm talking to the attorneys that I'm selling to. Hey, did you know we also do this? Here's a situation where we had this problem. We did it. Here's how we solved it. Victory for satellite. Yay, us. Contact us. This is how we do things, right? And I remember you came back to me with some feedback. Let's see if you remember feedback here.
Yeah. I was saying like, hey man, I think this is great information, but we need like some kind of hook.
Right.
And we needed like something as soon as somebody is scrolling, that just stops the scroll. That's what we call it. We got to stop the scroll.
Right.
And that first hook, it was fun stuff. It was like, wait, what did he just say? Or even the Jedi mind trick reference.
These aren't the droids you're looking for, right?
Yeah. And
Everybody
it's
knows
like,
that. They know it. It's like,
yeah.
as soon as you hear that, like, oh, okay, he's playing on Star Wars.
Yeah. And it makes the person immediately think, I wonder what this is about. Versus I think the way it used to be introduced, you were saying like, hey, I'm Matthew Spare with Satellite. It's like, hey,
who cares?
if they want to find out who you are, they can wait to the end of the video, or
Right.
they can go on the website, but we need something to grab them right away.
Yeah, and it's energy. I recorded some content recently, and honestly, I was under the weather a little bit, and I did it. And you're rolling with it now, and I'm going, "Who is this bum, man?" I'm like mumbling through my words, and it like it all that it means something. You got to be like super high energy, you know. Another one was like the race to the case. I love that. I love
Yeah.
it's
Oh
me,
man,
my
so
buddy
good.
Jeremy. Like we both worked on the same case, and he's like, "How did you get there before I did?" You know, like this, you know, like those, like figuring out those hooks, like that's something like I love doing now. Like I think about a situation, you know, and okay, so what's a good hook for for me to talk about this situation?
Right.
It's giving me more content. And the beautiful part about it is it doesn't have to be Adrian that's shooting it. Like what we do is like I got my kid doing it. You know,
Right.
I got him like some good video equipment because that's his hobby. He's into it. I said, okay, now you're gonna do something for dad and you're gonna set something up. And I set aside like a day and I film like 5 or 6 of these things. And I'm usually doing about 2 hours, maybe less. And then, you know, it's done. I ship it off to Adrian and Adrian makes it look good. So
Yeah, and that's a great, point about having a brand book. Like hats off to Mark and Digital Kick. Like,
yeah,
you know,
another one, another. I should have him on also.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
They have the brand guidelines so dialed in that it just makes it so much easier for whoever's editing. It's like, hey, I know what fonts to use, and I know what colors to use.
right,
I got my own video editing tricks, but I'm tailoring it all to what the brand book says. And so from, your son shooting it to me editing it with, Mark's brand guidelines, it becomes this cohesive thing to where, hey, it didn't have to be a huge video production. And those are awesome.
right.
We've done those for like the website header, and there's a time and place for that. But
Sure.
when people are feeling the squeeze with budget and they're like, well, I got to do video stuff, but I don't have the budget to hire a guy to come out. It's like, well, you don't have to start there. That could be an end goal. But just having some decent lighting and
Right.
the iPhone, and hey, just shoot in these settings, get it over to me, and yeah, we can make even the worst stuff look
Yeah.
decent, and the decent stuff look even better. So
Yeah, I mean, lighting is so important. I had somebody that used to come on as a guest all the time, and I love her. I'm not gonna say who she was, but her lighting was terrible. And one year for Christmas, I bought her a ring light. I'm like,
yeah,
"Merry Christmas! If you're gonna continue to be on my show, use this darn light, please." I'm like, you look like Elvira, the
oh,
Princess of Darkness. You're like, that's not good.
yeah. And again, there's some basics, and
Sure.
and I think a good video person in your corner, again, to speak of like the different skills that I came with. It's like, hey, like I might not be able to get out there all the time to shoot this stuff,
Right.
um, but if you follow some of these principles, it'll get us in the right direction. And the information, the content, the hook is so good
Yeah.
that it makes up the difference of whatever's lacking in high production value.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's so important, right? So if you want to save dollars, uh, the best way to do that is whoever you hire to do your production, make their job easier because it's all comes down to time spent, right? So if you can pre-produce or just get the content over in a way to your person that they're going to spend less time on it, they're going to charge you less for it. So that's a way to save money. I can definitely say that 100%. um, just being able to understand that, making that person's job easier, you're going to get more out of your advertising budget. It is super
Yeah.
important.
Yeah,
um,
and because the way you're shooting it is so consistent, you're picking like the same place.
right,
Not that you have to, but because it is in the same place and it's the same lighting and it's the same settings with the same camera, when
right,
you ship over, 4 to 5 episodes to me, um, I can just take that day and just cut it all up, and
yeah,
then it's all there to be released. And in editing, I have the updated transcript of whatever we cut out, and we're using those for the articles. And so again, we're taking one piece and we're turning it into 2 to 4
Right.
pieces of content. And so that's the way, like you said, you're saving money that way too, and you're getting more out of your time by not having to record 8 pieces, or also 4 pieces, and then, hey, give me 4 blogs about that.
Yeah. No, I that the whole blog thing is like a game changer. That's our new little secret weapon, right? Just taking these episodes and turning them into, just repurposing them into a blog, and it doesn't have to be a long blog, just a little something, a little extra content to get out there. I'm loving that because I don't have to write these darn things anymore. Because I was like, yeah, again, I'm like, what do I write about? I've kind of reached that point. I did a lot of writing for PI Magazine over the years. Again, another way to get my name out there, to just create that comfort level, being a subject matter expert in the industry, because I've been out doing that. So like, if you don't write for one of the magazines, like they're always looking for content. Contact them, tell them you want to write for them, you want to submit an article. What's the worst that could happen? They kick it back and say not for us, right? That almost never happens. And if it does, you haven't used Chat GPT to write something. So
Yeah,
uh,
well, and I want to say that what we're doing is also, it's great ethically. I think it's important, in the age of AI. It's like, we're not saying like, hey, give me AI, give me an article on open source intelligence. We're pulling the episode from PI perspectives on open source intelligence. We're going to the did you know on how you guys will utilize OSINT, and we're taking that as the source material,
right.
and just having AI maybe clean it up or reformat some things or remove redundancies. But that's a, it's this is the stuff that's coming from your guys' expertise,
Right.
not some random language model trying to think about what a an investigator would say.
Right. Yeah, who's probably watched a little too much Inspector Gadget, and it's collecting its intel.
Yeah.
Look, something said Max, I think it's Max Smart in there, Maxwell Smart. Right?
Exactly.
And it didn't work out.
Yeah, so it's the best way to use this kind of tool. It's We've gone beyond just, hey, this thing can help me out with some captions,
Right.
to this thing can really help max out the work that we're already putting into it and the information that we're feeding it as the source ourselves.
Yeah. So it's a good point. And we're going to wind down here. And I want to close on something you said recently about brand guidelines and how important that is. When you're creating something, to make sure that you're consistent with the camera angles, with the lighting, with the whatever's behind there, with the colors that you're using for your logos, what your website looks like, what your content looks like. Like that's all in the brain, and how it like pulls everything together is so important. If you've got messages on things all over the place, all you're doing is just confusing people. That if you're really interested in creating a brand, and becoming a subject matter expert, like all these things are important. It really is part of that big cauldron of stew that is what we are, right? The flavoring in it needs to be consistent, right?
Yeah, it's, people talk about company culture. Um, well, this is the visual culture of the brand. And so it's an unspoken necessity. But people feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And like you said, like you don't want to communicate confusion, because if the brand messaging is confusing, if the colors are confusing, what must the people be like? And that
Yeah.
might not be the case, but that's what it looks like to your customers. And
Yeah. And
so,
if you look at all the content that I put out, PI perspectives, investigators toolbox, satellite investigations, the color schemes are all the same. The logos you think are different, but they're not. They're the same. Like the fonts are the same, the color schemes are the same, even the objects in it are the same. One of the reasons why, when we talked about Mark Murphy at Digital Kick, who does all that stuff for me, One of the reasons why the new Satellite Investigations logo is boxy and like the way it is, and it's a little abstract, is because it pulls in on the toolbox, and the investigator's toolbox logo. If you look at it, it's a deconstructed eyeglass, or not eyeglass, a deconstructed spyglass, where the handle's kind of turned in a little bit, the eyeballs in the middle, the eye for investigators. It's all there in a purpose, like it was done for a reason, intentional. And my partnership actually with Conflict International, they just rebranded themselves this week. Mike LaCourt put out this new thing where they redid their logo, and I thought it was great. I thought they did such an awesome job with it, because they made the C in the conflict like a compass and is pointing, and Mike summed it up like, we're always pointing towards the truth and all that. I'm like, this is good.
Yeah, that's great branding.
What he paid for, like, money well spent on branding, sir.
Yeah, I just saw it too.
It was
great.
a really good job. It's impressive, right? It's like, okay, this is somebody who understands and gets it, right? So kudos to that. So it's, this is for everyone that's out there. If you're an investigator, you're doing this stuff. Like, if you have intentions on growing your business and being maybe a little bit more than what you are, take some of that extra revenue that you have there, and really, if you're not putting it in, if you're not line iteming this, which it's a write-off, folks. If you own your business, it's got to be a line item in your budget for doing this stuff. It's going to help you grow and hit the next level. So, Adrian, how do folks get a hold of you if they have any questions on this stuff, or they're interested in maybe using your services?
Yeah, you can go to my website. It's adrianpadarath.com, and there's a contact form there. You can see a bunch of my work, including stuff that I've done with Matt and other friends, and would be happy to get on a call and figure out what you guys need. Everything from video production to social media marketing.
Yeah. And I am not the only investigation firm you're doing business with. You have spidered out a little bit, and you're working with some of the others. People, whenever they ask me who, that looks great, I said, well, you should use my guy Adrian, because he knows what he's doing. So it's really taken my brand recognition to a whole nother level. I'm appreciative of it. I'm glad that we were able to do this. We were buddies before we started doing
Yeah.
this, and it's been great to see your business grow as you stepped away from working for somebody to doing your own thing. That's always an amazing story too. I love that. And I wish you the best of luck, man. Thanks for coming on and being a part of this.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you having me on as a guest.
Absolutely. You're a part of the voice of getting all this stuff out there. And I wanted to highlight that and let folks know. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch everybody on the next episode, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thanks, Adrian, for coming on discussing how to use social media to market your PI business. Thanks to 4 Pillars and Scope Now for sponsoring our podcast. Additional thanks to TrackOps and PI Institute of Education. Also, don't forget about investigatorstoolbox.com, where you can type in Perspectives 50 to save $50 when you join. And please also follow Matt at Satellite Investigations on LinkedIn. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd like your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we'll be back next week with a new show, so make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.